Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, Chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 32. मां हि पार्थ व्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास्तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम्. The synonyms: Mam, unto me; he, certainly; Partha, O son of Pritha; Vyapashritya, particularly taking shelter; Ye, anyone; Api, also; Syuhu, becomes; Papayonayaha, born of a lower family; Striyaha, women; Vaisyaha, mercantile people; Tatha, also; Shudraha, lower class men; Te api, even they; Yanti, go; Param, supreme; Gatim, destination. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaisyas or merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service there is no distinction between the lower or higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions. But for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that even the lowest, who are called Chandalas, dog-eaters, can be elevated by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man, actually it should be sinful, the most sinful man taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance. According to the different modes of material nature, men are classified in the mode of goodness, Brahmanas; the mode of passion, Kshatriyas or administrators; the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, Vaisyas or merchants; and the mode of ignorance, Shudras or workers. Those lower than them are called Chandalas, and they are born in sinful families. Generally, those who are born in sinful families are not accepted by the higher classes, but the process of devotional service and the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord are so strong that all the lower classes can attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna. One has to take shelter completely of Krishna. Then one can become much greater than great jnanis and yogis. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this is a famous verse of the Bhagavad-Gita. Mam hi partha vipashritya yevi siv papayonayaha striyo vaisyas tata shudras tepi yanti param gati. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaisyas as well as Shudras, can approach the supreme destination. Actually, this chapter, 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, is called the most confidential knowledge. As we have discussed in the previous sessions, the Bhagavad Gita is like, we can split the Bhagavad Gita into 3 parts. The first 6 chapters, the middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like the cover of the book, and the actual contents are in the middle 6 chapters. In the middle 6 chapters, from chapters 7 to 12, chapters 9 and 10 are at the middle of the middle 6 chapters. So the middle, the 9th and the 10th chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita constitute the most confidential knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, Krishna largely spoke about the constitution of the spirit soul. The knowledge of the spirit soul was revealed. So that is called confidential knowledge. In the chapters 7 and 8, the aspect of Brahman being the source of creation of this material world, and the all-pervasive feature of the Paramatma was discussed. And so that the knowledge of Brahman and the knowledge of Paramatma is called more confidential knowledge. In the 9th and 10th chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita, directly Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed, and also the glories of pure devotional service is also described. And therefore, the 9th and the 10th chapters reveal the most confidential knowledge. In the 7th and the 8th chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita, the different types of bhakti have been discussed. Mishra bhakti, sakama bhakti, akama bhakti, and about yogis, different kinds of yoga being performed with mixed devotional service. So, Bhakti Mishra Yoga, that has also been described in the 8th chapter. Reference to Ananya Bhakti has also been given in these 2 chapters. Now, in the 9th chapter, Krishna, from verses 26 to 34, we are coming towards the conclusion of this section of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, where from verses 26 to 34, Krishna talks about the glories of Ananya Bhakti. How Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotional service, rendered to Krishna with the objective of only the pleasure of Krishna and no other objective. Such kind of devotional service is called Ananya Bhakti, and the stature of Ananya Bhakti compared to Sakama Bhakti, Nishkama Bhakti, etc. is actually described in these verses. So, if we look at the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna had asked Krishna one question. What happens to a yogi who falls away, yoga brashta, a yogi who does not complete the process but deviates? What happens to him? So there, in verses 41 through 44 of the 6th chapter, Krishna spoke about 2 kinds of yoga brashtas. One is a yoga brashta who follows the path of yoga for a short period of time, and then he falls away. Such a person goes to in the next birth, he goes to the heavenly planets, and after enjoying heavenly pleasures for a long period of time, again he takes birth in a highly affluent mercantile class of family, aristocratic family. He takes birth, and then he gets all the facility to continue his process of yoga. The second class of yogi is the yogi who falls away from the path of yoga after practicing yoga for a long period of time. Such a yogi gets an opportunity to take birth in his next life in the family of great Vaishnavas or Brahmanas. So, such Acharya Kulas, as Prabhupada calls them, give opportunity for the person to revive his process of yoga which he had deviated from, and then to continue it. And then over a period of time, over further lifetimes, he can perfect himself and he can achieve perfection. But now, compared to all this, Mishra Yoga, Sakama Bhakti, Nishkama Bhakti, compared to all that, when it comes to Ananya Bhakti, devotional service to perform to Krishna alone exclusively with the only intention to please him, such a devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, what is the stature, what is the difference of this compared to the other yoga processes? So Krishna explained in the 30th verse, Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hi saha. Unlike the other yogis, when they deviate from the path of bhakti, they have to take birth in the Swargalokas, or they have to take birth in Acharya Kulas, and then again they have to revive their process of yoga, and then again they have to continue until they reach perfection. Compared to that, when it comes to an Ananya Bhakti, even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly. That means he does not have to again next birth take in the heavenly planets. Then after several lifetimes, after a long period of time, he takes birth in an aristocratic family. Then again, he has to come in the association of yogis. All this process he doesn't have to undergo. So in a very short span of time, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, Krishna says in verse 31. Very quickly, he will get reinstated in his position of bhakti. Unlike, you see, the other process of yoga, if you deviate, then after that, for you to come back, it will take a very long process. Whereas in the process of Ananya Bhakti, Shipram Bhavati, very quickly he will resume his process of Ananya Bhakti. There are examples of this. The most wonderful example is that of Bharat Maharaj, who he fell away from the path of, he had reached the stage of Bhava Bhakti, following the process of Ananya Bhakti. And when he fell down from that path of Ananya Bhakti, what happened? Next lifetime, he took the birth of a deer. He didn't go to Swarga. He didn't take birth in Acharya Kula. He took the birth of an animal, but retained the memory of his past devotional service. Next life, he became Jarabharata, perfected his devotional service. So very quickly, hardly one lifetime. So when we speak of Apichet Suduracharo, it actually means there are two kinds of devotees who are Sudurachara. One is a devotee who has been Sadachar, who has been on the path of Sadachara. He has learned how to perform devotional service, but he falls away. He will quickly again get reinstated. Another kind of Durachara is a person who is born into a family where from the beginning he is practicing Durachara. So the two examples which we can think of personalities who were doing devotional service but then fell into Durachara, one is Bharat Maharaj, another is Ajamila. And both of them, Bharat Maharaj took one more lifetime to perfect himself, but Ajamila, within the very same lifetime, he perfected his life in devotional service and went back to Godhead. So you see how, in the case of Ananya Bhakti, even though one may become so fallen and wretched like Ajamila, still within the same lifetime, he becomes reinstated in Bhakti and goes back to Godhead. The other kind of Durachara is a person who is born into a family of Duracharis. So from birth itself, he is into Durachara. The example for this is Mrigari. Mrigari, right from birth, he was engaged in Durachara, sinful activities. He was killing animals half dead. And then he would see them writhing in pain and slowly dying, and he would take pleasure in it. This was a great Durachara. So even he, just by coming in touch with a pure devotee, because he started Ananya Bhakti, immediately within the same lifetime, he became a pure devotee and perfected his life. So both ways, whether one is a Sudurachara by birth or due to fall down after practicing Sadachara, both cases, Shipram Bhavati, very quickly the person will become a pure devotee. So not only that, so the Krishna is also talking of here the Manhi Partha Vipashritya Yepisyo Papayonaya. Here Krishna is talking of the second category of people who are born into families of Durachara. That means Papayoni, they are born into families of sinful they are born into sinful families and they are engaged in sinful activities right from birth. Even tepi yanti param gatim madhipartha vyapashritya. Even they, if they take shelter of Krishna, then what will happen? They will also get liberated. So one is a durachari who is a yoga bhrashta, who follows the path of Ananya Bhakti and falls down. Even he also gets liberated. The other second class of people, which Krishna is mentioning here, those who are born into sinful families, they also get liberated if they take shelter of Krishna. This is the glory of Ananya Bhakti. This is the glory of pure devotional service. Actually, when we speak of devotional service, Jiva Goswami classifies devotional service into two broad divisions. One is Santata Bhakti, another is Kadachitki. Santata Bhakti means bhakti or devotional service which is performed incessantly, without any break, constantly, every moment. The pure devotee renders Santata Bhakti with faith, with conviction, and with love. So that is pure devotional service of the highest order. The second, so this has again further two subdivisions. Santata Bhakti. One is Bhakti, Santata Bhakti performed with asakti, with some attachment. The other is Ragatmika Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, where out of spontaneous love for Krishna, the devotee renders Santata Bhakti, incessant devotional service. When it comes to the second category, Kadachitki Bhakti means the devotional service that the devotee performs is not incessant. He performs devotional service, maybe Vaidhi Bhakti as a part of rule and regulation. Once in a while, sometimes some spontaneity comes out, some attachment comes out. So this is called Kadachitki. Kadachit means sometimes that inner emotions come out. So in this Kadachitki Bhakti is further subdivided into three categories. So the first is Raga Bhasa Bhakti. So what happens is when when a devotee performs Vaidhi Bhakti, he has almost come to the stage of attachment to rendering devotional service with attachment to Krishna. He has almost come to that stage. That is called Raga Bhasa Bhakti. The second category, subcategory of Kadachitki Bhakti is Ragabhasa Shunya, Ragabhasa Shunya, where the devotee doesn't have any attachment, but he likes the constitutional position of service. He likes to render service. So that is called Ragabhasa Shunya Swarupa Bhuta. So he has he feels very nice to render service. He likes to do service. So this is called, although he has not come to the position of attachment, but he likes, okay, this is something nice to render service to Krishna and to the pure devotee. So this is the second category. Third category is Abhasa Rupa Bhakti, where there is a very slight awakening of devotional service. So Srila Rupa Goswami mentions that whether one is, even if one has come to the stage of Abhasa Rupa Bhakti, that Abhasa Rupa Bhakti itself will destroy all the sinful reactions of that devotee who is performing that Abhasa Rupa Bhakti. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Nahi Bhagavan, what is that verse? Yeah. Nahi Bhagavan Aghatitam Idam Darshana Nrinam Akhila Papa Kshayaha Yan Nama Sakrit Sravanat Pukkasopi Vimuchyate Samsarat. So the Bhagavatam is saying that Nahi Bhagavan Aghatitam Idam. It has never happened that Tvadarshana Nrinam Na Akhila Papa Kshayaha. So it has never happened that, oh my Lord Krishna, by your darshan, a person has not been cleansed completely of all his sinful activities. Akhila Papa Kshayaha. So Akhila Papa, all his sinful reactions are washed away simply by having your darshan. What to speak of darshan? Twan nama sakrit sravanat, even if once somebody hears your holy name, even that will liberate one from all one's sinful reactions. Twan nama sakrit sravanat, pukkashopi vimuchyate samsarat. Even a pukkasha, even a chandala, even a dog eater will get liberated from this material world. That is the power of devotional service. That is the power of just remembering, just hearing Krishna's holy name once. So, if somebody is having darshan of the Supreme Lord, or if he is rendering devotional service, how is it that he cannot become liberated from his sinful reactions? So, what we have to understand is the Bhagavatam is saying that when we render devotional service to Krishna, by either hearing his holy name or chanting his holy name or having darshan of his Sri Vigraha, in any which way we render devotional service to Krishna, what will happen? Akhila Papa Kshayaha. All our past sinful reactions will get destroyed. So when we speak of Akhila Papa Kshaya, what does it mean? There are two different aspects of Papa or sinful activities. One is the propensity to perform sinful activities. The different kinds of sinful activities are graded into three categories. So they are categorized according to the degree of the sinful activity involved. So there are sinful activities which are one second. There are sinful activities which are called pataka, and there are sinful activities which are mahapataka, and there are sinful activities which are atipataka. So there are different higher and higher grades of sinful activities. When one starts engaging in devotional service to Krishna, the propensity to perform any kind of sinful activity, whether pataka, mahapataka or atipataka, everything is washed away from the heart. So this is one aspect of the Akhila Papa Kshaya. Another aspect of Akhila Papa Kshaya is not only is the propensity to perform sinful activities destroyed, all the accumulated sinful reactions of several innumerable, infinite past lives are also destroyed. So all the sinful reactions of our past lives are stored in one form which is known as aprarabdha karma. There are again two subdivisions of the sinful reactions which we have accumulated over our past lifetimes. Those two are, one is aprarabdha phala and prarabdha phala. Aprarabdha phalam kutam bijam phalonmukham. So the aprarabdha phala is of three kinds. One is kutam bijam phalonmukham. So kutam means it is in seed form, or rather it is like bijam means seed form. Kutam means the seed has just sprouted. The plant has started growing. Phalonmukham means the phala has started forming. It has not ripened, but it has started forming on the plant. The flower has formed. The flower is turning into the fruit. This is phala unmukha. It is going to fructify. So aprarabdha kutam bijam phalonmukham kramena praliyata Vishnu bhakti ratmatmanam. One who engages in devotional service to Krishna, all these aprarabdha karmas, whether it is in bija form, whether it is sprout form, or it is phala unmukha, it is about to fructify, all of them get destroyed. So aprarabdha phala gets destroyed. What about prarabdha karma? Prarabdha karma means the phala which you already tasting on account of your past sinful activities. Like for example, the body I have got. I might have got the body of a man. I might have got the body of a woman. I might have got the body of a Brahmana. I might have got the body of a Shudra. All these are bodies which I have got. These are the result of my past activities. So the body I have got, the mind I have got, the intelligence I have got, this gross and subtle body that I have got, these are all the result of prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means karma which has already fructified, and we are tasting the fruit of the prarabdha karma. So that's prarabdha karma. So whether it is prarabdha karma or aprarabdha karma, both of the karmas are destroyed when we engage in devotional service, even if it is abhasa rupa. That is why it is said, akhila papa kshayaha. Nahi bhagavan agatitam idam, yem nahi bhagavan agatitam idam, tvad-darshanan nrinam akhila papa kshayaha. Akhila papa kshaya, all your akhila papa means both your aprarabdha and prarabdha karma and your propensity to perform pataka, mahapataka and adipataka, all of them are destroyed simply by rendering devotional service to Krishna, even if it is on the stage of abhasa rupa. Just the beginning, there is a reflection of devotional service in our lives. Even that is enough to destroy all this. So, therefore, here Krishna is saying, Madhi partha vipashritya yepislu papayonayaha. Those who are born into sinful families, that means that is there because of their prarabdha karma, they take birth in a sinful family. So, that prarabdha karma is also destroyed if tepi yanti param gatim, if they also attain the highest perfection, if Madhi partha vipashritya, they take shelter of Krishna. So, to get the body of a Papa Yoni, to get the body of a Stri, to get the body of a Vaishya, to get the body of a Shudra, these are all considered the result of our past sinful activities. So, somebody may question, why is the Bhagavad-Gita and Krishna being discriminating towards women? There is no gender equality. Why this gender bias? Why are women being discriminated against by Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita? So actually, Krishna is not a discriminating person. First of all, we have to understand, Bhagavad-Gita Krishna began, the very first lesson Krishna gave to Arjuna was what? Ashocyan anvashocastvam prajnavadansya bhashase gatasun agatasun nanushocanti panditaha. The first lesson Krishna gave to Arjuna was that stop looking at things on the basis of the body. The body is not what a pandita or a learned person will lament for. So, the living entity, the soul within the body is the real factual entity to be taken care of, to be concerned about. So, the living entity within the body is neither man nor woman. That living entity, which is an eternal servant amsha of Krishna, has taken on a body, whether of a man or a woman or an animal or whatever it is, on account of his past activities. So already before the human race was created, the law of karma was created. According to the law of karma, if somebody takes birth in a dog family, he is considered that birth is on account of some papa karma. Somebody does this kind of papa karma, he will take birth in a dog family. Now suppose dogs were able to understand and they were able to comprehend Bhagavad-Gita. What will they say when they hear this? Oh, how you are discriminating against dogs. We are not discriminating against dogs. The law of karma has been created like that. According to the papa karma that you do, different bodies have been created. The body of a dog, the body of a plant, the body of an animal, the body of a woman. So even the body of a woman is created according to a certain activity that you do. The body of a man is also created according to the kind of activity you do. Even amongst men, if you take birth in a Shudra family, you are considered Papa Yoni. You are considered that some Papa karma you have done, that's why you have taken birth in a family of a Shudra. You have done some Papa karma, that's why you have taken birth in the family of a Vaishya. So if a woman takes birth in a Brahmana family, when you compare with a man who has taken birth in a Shudra family, the woman naturally has more punya than the man body who has taken birth in a Shudra family. But when you compare a woman in a living entity in a woman's body in a Brahmana family with a living entity who has a man's body in a Brahmana family, that living entity who has done more punya karma has got the body of a man in a Brahmana family. So this is all relative. This is comparative. In comparison to one person is more sinful in comparison to another person. The same person is more pious. So this is how the law of material nature is such that these kind of different kinds of bodies that have been created in this material world are all created according to the different degrees of pious and sinful activities that people have done. So if a living entity has got a woman's body in a Brahmana family this lifetime, or let us say a living entity got a man's body in a Shudra family or a Chandala family this lifetime, he does some punya karma. Next lifetime he takes birth as a woman in a Brahmana family. It is a higher birth. But suppose he does more punya karma, next birth he takes birth as a Brahmana in a man's body. That is an even higher this one. So that way, the living entity is not discriminated against. If you do more punya karma, the same living entity in the woman's body, next life he can get a man's body. So that is discrimination. So when Krishna is stating that striyo vaisyas tatha shudraha tepi, papa yonayaha, he is stating a mere fact. So if you compare a Vaishya body, a Vaishya's body compared to a Shudra body is more pious. It is more punya. One has to have done a Shudra to get a Vaishya body. But if you compare a Vaishya with a Kshatriya and a Brahmana, Vaishya must have done Papa Karma, because of which he has not got a Brahmana or a Kshatriya body. Similarly, if you compare between a man and a woman within the same class, a man has the living entity which got a man's body, he did some more punya karma, so he got it. The living entity who did not do enough punya karma, that living entity got a woman's body, and that living entity, if he does enough punya karma, next life he can get a man's body. So this is simply the law of karma, according to which the prarabdha karma has manifested in the form of different bodies. We are actually neither woman nor man. This is Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad-Gita. So where is the question of discriminating on the basis of the body? So if Krishna had said, once a person takes birth in a woman's body, forever he is condemned as a sinful person. Krishna didn't say that. You got this body because of certain sinful activities. You perform past activities, you'll get a man's body. So doors are open. So where is the question of discrimination? So we have to understand that in a prison house, there will be different grades of criminals. But finally, everyone is a criminal. As Chaitanya Charitamrita states, that ye bhala ye manda, sab manodharma, it is all our mental concoction. This is good, this is bad. Man's body is good, woman's body is less good. These are all mental concoction. Everything is bad here. Just like there is no difference between wet stool and dry stool, there is no difference between papa and punya in this material world, because both of them are binding us to this material world. So what Krishna is saying here is, no matter whatever your prarabdha karma is, forget it. Don't worry about it. Don't think of doing punya karma and elevating yourself and getting out of the prarabdha karma. Forget it. You surrender unto Krishna and render devotional service. Once for all, finish this business of papa, punya, everything. So the power of devotional service is such that it can destroy even prarabdha karma, not only aprarabdha karma. Whether it is accumulated on account of papa or punya, everything it can destroy. This is the glory, this is the power of devotional service. So when you look at other yoga practices, whether it is Ashtanga yoga or Jnana yoga or Karma yoga, you have to have certain qualification to perform that. To perform the Karma yoga of a Brahmana, you have to take birth, you have to do Punya Karma and take birth in a Brahmana family. If you are born in a Vaishya's family, you cannot, or a Shudra family, you cannot do the Karma of a Brahmana. It is not allowed. So similarly, Jnana yoga, if you have to perform the process of Jnana yoga, you should have taken birth in a Brahmana family, you should have a man's body, you should have taken sannyas. So much qualifications are required. And if you have to perform the process of Ashtanga yoga, again, you should have a man's body, you should have taken the vow of brahmacharya, you should go to the forest, control your senses. So many qualifications are needed. That means any of these yoga processes can be performed only by qualified people. If your prarabdha karma does not give you the qualification of being a Brahmana or having a man's body, then you cannot perform these functions. Whereas Bhakti Yoga, it does not require any qualification. You perform Bhakti Yoga, that Bhakti Yoga itself will bestow the qualification upon you. So much so that, as Devahuti mentions in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Ejjifvagre vartate namatubhyam. Anyone on whose the lips the Lord Krishna's holy name is present, Shvapacho Atho Gariyan, Ahobata Shvapacho Atho Gariyan, even if he is born in a Chandala family, he is considered better than the best Brahmana. Ahobato Shvapacho Atho Gariyan, Yajjifvagre Vartate Namatubhyam, Tepos Tapas Juhu Sashnurarya. And if a person, even though he is born in a Chandala family, if he is chanting the holy name of Krishna, Tepos Tapaha, he must be understood to have performed all tapasyas given in the Vedas. Juhu, he has performed all the yajnas prescribed in the Vedas. Sasnurarya, and he is considered the topmost of all the social orders in the society. He is higher than even a Brahmana. Brahmana, he has studied the entire Vedas. So, Brahmanuchur Nama Grinanti Yete. So, those who take the holy name of Krishna are considered to have crossed all these things. In other words, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, by rendering devotional service to Krishna, that devotional service bestows all the qualification what you can achieve by performing tapasya, yajna, dana, or taking birth in the Brahmana family, performing all kinds of tapasya, austerity, everything. All those qualifications are bestowed upon even the Chandala if he performs devotional service to Krishna. This is the glory, this is the beauty, this is the power of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. What kind of Bhakti Yoga? Not Mishra Bhakti Yoga, not Sakama Bhakti Yoga, Ananya Bhakti Yoga, where the Bhakti Yoga is performed exclusively to Lord Krishna and with the sole intention of giving pleasure to Krishna. This is Ananya Bhakti or Kevala Bhakti. This kind of devotional service is so powerful, even the most unqualified person, simply by performing that bhakti, that bhakti will bestow all the qualification required upon him. This is the uniqueness of Bhakti Yoga. It will qualify the unqualified person. Whereas all other yoga systems, first by doing punya karma, you have to attain the qualification, then you can perform that yoga process. You see how it is, how Bhakti Yoga is so wonderful, how it is so powerful. And the best example we can see of this is how Srila Prabhupada went to the Western world and all Mlechas, Yavanas, all of them, Srila Prabhupada turned them into Vaishnavas of the highest order. So, simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada went into Tompkins Square Park and started Kirtan of Hare Krishna mantra. That's all. That chanting of Hare Krishna mantra bestowed all the qualification upon the biggest of the drug addicts. So you can imagine. So what greater proof can we have than the efficacy of this statement of Krishna here? Mam hi partha vyapashritta yetisyu papayonaiha. Even the most papayoni. And as Krishna said in the 30th verse, api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag. And in the previous verse, kshipram bhavate dharmatma. So all these verses, what Krishna is talking about the glories of devotional service, were practically demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada. So what we have to understand is that for a person to be able to take advantage of that Ananya Bhakti, there is another very important criterion which is required, which Prabhupada reveals in the purport. Prabhupada says, therefore, devotional service and guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take it. So you see, that Ananya Bhakti also to perform, it should be under the guidance of a pure devotee, under the shelter of a pure devotee. So that pure devotees association is what empowers that unqualified person to attain the qualification to perform Ananya Bhakti. And so therefore, Prabhupada says that in Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that even the lowest, who are called the Chandalas, dog eaters, can be elevated by association with a pure devotee. So the point is, if whether one is a Papa Yoni, whether one is a Stri, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever it is, he may be rejected by all other yoga processes. He may be rejected by the society. He may be considered unqualified by the Jnanis and Ashtanga yogis and Karma yogis. Even such a person, if he takes shelter of a pure devotee, he becomes higher than the topmost yogi. That is what Krishna is stating here. So Krishna is not doing any gender discrimination. Krishna is stating pure facts, and he is explaining the glories of devotional service. And so that is how we have to understand this verse. So I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments, we can discuss.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any questions from devotees? I
think everybody went to sleep.
I have a question, Prabhu, regarding the last point that you mentioned. Okay.
Yes.
Although, it is said that one should not look at the bodily constitution, still, why is the category presented like that? Why is a women, particularly because it's interesting that Vaishya and Shudra, they are not gender-based categories.
Yeah.
But women is a gender-based category.
Yes.
So why are they classified as lower? That is my first question. What is the reason? Because although you said that there is no discrimination, still why in a regular way there is some kind of hierarchy of higher and lower in this case?
Okay.
Between male and female.
So the fact is that it is the reverse. What you are saying, the logic is reversed. It's not that some people were picked up, Vaishyas were picked up, Shudras were picked up, women were picked up, and they were classified as Papa Yoni. That's not how it is.
Okay.
So first the law of karma was created. According to the law of karma, there is Papa and Punya. If you do Papa karma, then if you do Punya karma, these are the bodies you will get. You will get the human body, you will get a Brahmana body, you will get a man's body. All these things are classified. If you do the highest Punya karma, you will get a man's body in a Brahmana family. If you do a little less Punya karma, you will get a woman's body in a Brahmana family. If you do less than that, you will get a man's body in a Vaishya family. So first the law of karma came. According to the law of karma, the different bodies, body of human being, body of animals, body of plants, birds, bees, all these different varieties of 84 million species was created, 8,400,000 species was created. And in that, according to the different karmas, the bodies of man and woman were created. So it is not that man and woman were existing and then they were classified according to Papa Yoni or Punya Yoni. That's not how it is. First, the classification happened of what is Papa Yoni and Punya Yoni. According to that, the different varieties of bodies were created. The bodies of humans, animals, plants, birds, along with that, bodies of man, woman, all these things were created. So when that came down like that, the different bodies are put into the respective classifications. So you will find animals, they are Papa Yoni. Human beings are not Papa Yoni comparatively. Now, if you take within human beings, there are human beings who are Shudras, who are again Papa Yoni, and Brahmanas who are Punya Yoni. So you see, so it is relative. That's why I said it's a relative thing. If you compare one with another, if you take the body of a woman with respect to body of a cat or a dog or an animal, it is a Punya Yoni. But if you compare with a man of the same, this one Varna, it is a Papa Yoni. So it is a relative thing. And as I said, the classification is of the body, not of you. You are, Krishna is already declared, Mamaivanso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhata Sanatana. We are eternal servant of Krishna and our nature is Prakriti. That's number one. Number two, another interesting thing you have to consider is, in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says that Urdhamolam Adhashakam, this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. I'm sure all of you know the example. I don't have to explain that to you. So whatever is the topmost in the spiritual world is the lowest in this material world. And whatever is highest in this material world is the lowest in the spiritual world. So in this material world, the body of a woman is considered Papa Yoni from a social perspective. But in the spiritual world, you go to Goloka Vrindavan, who are considered the topmost devotees, who are considered the highest devotees of Krishna, it is all women. So that way, when we take up bhakti, when we take up the process of devotion and service, even Brahma aspires to, Brahma who is in the man's body, aspires to become a woman in the spiritual world and become a maid servant of the Sakhis. So this material world is like that, it is a perverted reflection. So you don't have to think of gender discrimination, because that means you see in the spiritual world, the women are given the highest position. The topmost devotees of Krishna are the gopis, they are all women. So this material world is a perverted reflection. So naturally, those the forms of women who are the topmost devotional and aspired to be achieved even by Shiva and Brahma, that when it comes in the material world, it gets reversed. So that's the nature of this material world. So this is not a discrimination on the basis of gender. This is a mere statement of facts. And one more thing what we have to consider is, when we say women are less intelligent or they are Papa Yoni compared to men, is because the nature of women is that they are more affected emotionally by material circumstances. Prabhupada gives the example of Kayadu, who was the mother of Prahlad Maharaj. Narada Muni, when he gave instructions to Prahlad Maharaj, he was within the womb of his mother, Kayadu. Prahlad Maharaj, even though he was in the womb of his mother, he remembered all of Narada Muni's instructions. What happened to Kayadu? Kayadu forgot. Why Kayadu forgot? Although she also heard from Narada Muni, because although she was hearing from Narada Muni, at that point of time, she was in great anxiety. My husband should come back safe and sound. My child should not be killed by the Devatas. So these were the anxieties in her mind, because of which she could not properly imbibe or receive the instructions of Narada Muni. So that is womanly nature. So a person who has got a living entity who has got a woman's body, that body comes not with the physical body, but with a subtle body, which has a certain way of thinking. And that is what we are referring to when we say it is the body of a woman is less intelligent or Papa Yoni, because unlike the mental makeup of a man's body, the mental makeup of a woman's body is different. It tends to be more easily emotionally affected by material circumstances. But that does not mean that women cannot be rendered devotional service, they cannot become advanced. It is not like that, because Krishna himself is stating here that even if you are considered a woman, even though Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga may reject you because you have got a woman's body, still you also tepi anti paramgatim. You can also get the highest perfectional stage. How? By the process of Bhakti Yoga. So that way Bhakti Yoga removes all discriminations on the basis of the body. That you are born in Shudra family, Vaishya family, Kshatriya family, you are born in a woman's body, man's body, all those distinctions are taken apart by the process of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga, what Krishna is stating here is, from a social perspective, even if you discriminate that this is higher and lower, in the process of Bhakti Yoga, there is no higher or lower. The only consideration is, are you rendering Ananya Bhakti? Are you rendering Bhakti only for the pleasure of Krishna? That is the only consideration. I hope I clarified.
Thank you, Prabhu. So would I be correct to say that even if you look at the material, this kind of a regular social classification,
yes,
one strand of higher does not mean that you are higher in all respects also, because we see in the case of, for example, in Krishna Lila, we see the example of the Brahmanas as compared to the Brahmana Patnis, their behavior. We see also in Srila Prabhupada's purports to the teachings of Queen Kunti, how he says that, in some ways, women are superior in the way they approach the Lord compared to men.
If they render devotional service to Krishna, then that prarabdha karma of that woman's body you cannot consider. So because the women, the Brahmana Patnis, they rendered pure devotional service to Krishna, they thought only of the pleasure of Krishna. Therefore, no more we could consider that they are women, therefore they are inferior. They became superior to their husbands who are actually Brahmanas. So, in material consideration, you might consider this is higher or lower, but the moment somebody enters into Ananya Bhakti, all those discrimination you have to keep aside. You cannot discriminate on the basis of body. That is the understanding, even from the example of the Brahmana Patnis that we get.
So, Prabhu, like generally, I mean, in Vedic social arrangement, we see, I mean, like different acharyas in their structure of their setup and things like that. We see very different kinds of placements for men and women. And like Srila Prabhupada, how we give access, but we see in the more traditional kind of Indian social setup, we see that it's different. You know, we look at the other lineages and all that. So, is that because of the need to cater to some social perceptions also, that things are not stretched too much? You know, things are kept within a certain boundary, within the way things function and all that?
Well, first of all, what we have to consider is these considerations of the prarabdha karma in the form of the bodies that we have to got will persist as long as one does not come to the stage of Ananya Bhakti.
Okay.
When Srila Prabhupada, what Prabhupada gave us is Ananya Bhakti. Perform devotional service to Krishna only for the pleasure of Krishna, not for getting some good health, good material position, wealth, etc. Along with that, you do a little bit of devotional service also. No. Ananya Bhakti means pure devotional service, unadulterated, unalloyed Bhakti. So, when it comes to other Vaishnava, even if they are following the Vaishnava Sampradaya, if they have any tinge of mixture of any kind of jnana or Ashtanga Yoga or Kama, even whether it is Sakama Bhakti, Mishra Bhakti, Nishkama Bhakti, whatever it is, until it comes to the stage of Ananya Bhakti, that discrimination has to be there. That is the law of material nature. So, the law of material nature states that we have to discriminate. We have to discriminate based on the punya karma that we have done, or papa karma we have done, based on which we have got a particular yoni. We are taken birth in a particular yoni. That's our prarabdha karma. Actually, we have to understand that this is a law of material nature to give due respect to each person according to his body. Like, for example, even if I become a Vaishnava, I see every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna. So, whenever I see a person, I'll offer my obeisances because I see him as part and parcel of Krishna and I see the Paramatma in him. Doesn't mean that when I see a tiger in the forest, I'll go and pay my dandavats to him. I have to pay due respect to the tiger. The body of a tiger is, I have to pay due respect to that body. Although that Atma is still part and parcel of Krishna. And in that body of the tiger also Paramatma is there. So how do I pay my respect to a tiger? Not by offering dandavat, but by running away from it. So you have to pay due respect according to the body that somebody has got. And that has been displayed by Krishna himself. When Narada Muni came into his assembly, or when the Brahman from Rukmini Devi brought the message, whenever a Brahman would come, Krishna would personally get down and wash his feet and do arati for him and all those kind of things. Because Krishna wanted to establish that. Until you come to the stage of Ananya Bhakti, you have to discriminate and give due respect to the body. Why? Because that body has been got because of punya. So if somebody has got a higher body on account of greater punya he has done, we have to recognize his greater punya, which means that he is higher on sattva-guna. A greater, higher punya body means he is on higher sattva-guna. Shudra is in mode of tamoguna. Vaisya is in a mixed mode of tamoguna and rajoguna. Kshatriya is in rajoguna and Brahmana is in sattva-guna. So, higher and higher gunas. More punya you do, you are in a higher guna. So, if you got a Brahmana's body, that means you have got a lot of sattva-guna. And so, therefore, we have to respect that. We have to respect his higher stature of a higher guna, which means he is closer to achieving perfection. So, if I follow his path, I can also elevate myself to his level. So, all these considerations are there, and therefore, due respect according to the body is given, because that to recognize the punya that he has got, and to recognize that he is on a higher level of either of Samoguna, Rajoguna, or Satoguna, and accordingly we respect and we follow them so that we can get elevated to the next level. So in that sense, there is that discrimination has to be there in the material society. But the moment one comes to the stage of Ananya Bhakti, like you gave the example of all the Brahmana Patnis, the moment they came to the stage of Ananya Bhakti, then you don't consider all their bodies, their women, their Papa Yoni, all that is not there. They are immediately on the level of the pure devotees, they are on the level of the spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, which is situated in its original constitutional position. So similarly, even in Krishna consciousness also, even in our society, anybody who is a woman and who has taken up following Srila Prabhupada, accepting Prabhupada as her guru, and chanting Hare Krishna mantra and rendering devotional service for the pleasure of Krishna, so such a devotee, even though she may be in a woman's body, she cannot be classified as Papa Yoni like this material social classification is there. She also has to be given the same status as all other devotees who are on the platform of Ananya Bhakti. So that is how Srila Prabhupada never discriminated in his society between man and woman, because all of them are engaged in Ananya Bhakti. So women can also take second initiation, women can also do deity worship. Why? Because they are rendering Ananya Bhakti. They are not chanting Hare Krishna and rendering devotional service, taken shelter of Prabhupada for satisfying some material motive. They are also rendering devotional service because it is pleasing to Prabhupada and Krishna. Yasya prasada, Bhagavad prasada. I want to please Prabhupada. So therefore, no more consideration of female body. So you also can take second initiation. You can also do deity worship. All these things you can also do. So because Prabhupada established the devotional service in our movement on the platform of Ananya Bhakti, there is no discrimination in our society. On the other hand, if there is even a tinge of Kama or Jnana or Yoga, then that discrimination has to be there. That is how we have to understand. I hope does that answer?
I asked this question, Prabhu, because you see, like in the West, in our movement, the women are Matajis are allowed to do deity worship, but in India, it's a little bit more of a sensitive issue. We don't see that happening.
Probably that's only because of the social consideration, not that in principle that women cannot do deity worship. That's not the point. To avoid people criticizing and offending and doing aparad. So we as devotees also have a responsibility to ensure that the common ignorant man does not do Vaishnava aparad. No. So therefore, a devotee never acts in a way which disturbs the common man. You look at Sanatana Goswami, when he wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas, he says that the deity worship can be done only by a person who has been born in a Brahmana family. He says that. Why does he say that? Because the caste system at that time was so strong. If you were to write at that time that even Mlechas and Yavanas can do, it would have become very agitated, and they would have offended Sanatan Goswami. They would have gone to hell for that. So he said, no, let me not disturb them. For them, okay, let this understanding be there. At least this much let them accept. So we have to understand that we are living in a society. We also have to be careful about not behaving in such a way that the people misunderstand and make them do Vaishnava aparad. So that we have to be careful. So from that perspective, in India, we may, at this point of time, we may avoid allowing women to openly do deity worship. Although behind doors, the Matajis, once the darshan is closed, the Matajis can go and do deity dressing and all those kind of things we still allow. So those kind of things with time, when times change, as people's thoughts changes, then gradually this becomes more acceptable. Then even in India also, we can start allowing openly also. So that's more of a social consideration and consideration of not disturbing the ignorant mass of people. It's from that perspective.
So this social arrangement is essentially how things have been classified based on people's roles and responsibilities, but that perception has come that something is higher, something is lower. So these are two different things. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
that is true. That is true. This, people's misunderstanding is that by being born in this family, I acquire this status. That's not the fact. You acquired the status, therefore you took birth there. It's the reverse way. But people, because they don't understand the law of karma, they discriminate like this. So, I mean, as devotees, we don't have to pay too much importance to that, because anyway in Kali Yuga, the actual Varnashrama Dharma system also doesn't exist. It is present in a very perverted form. Eventually, all these things will also people will see the illogical reasoning behind all this. Just on the basis of birth, you start discriminating and all that, and people will start appreciating the Vaishnava, the Gaudiya Vaishnava way of involving and including every class of person in the devotional service to Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or
Hare Krishna,
questions?
Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Thank you very much for wonderful explanations. Yeah, it's the most debated purport actually. This topic is Prabhupada time also. When Mataji had asked Prabhupada that why we women are discriminated, and so Prabhupada said very simple one line, that if you are thinking yourself woman, then you are fallen. Something like that he said.
Yeah, that is the reality, no? Krishna already said in the beginning itself, Ashochan Anvashocastvam Prajnavadansa Bhatsase. You are talking like a big learned man. You are a fool. Body is not the basis of this one. You are not the body. So that's that. That point people forget. So because we are not on the platform of the soul, then with all this appears like discrimination and all those kind of things.
Right.
Because we are thinking, I am this body, and you are discriminating the body means you are discriminating against me. Even if I discriminate against the body, I'm not discriminating against you, because you are not the body. You are a spirit soul. Your identity is not that of a woman. That's the identity of the body.
Right.
So from that perspective, when you see, you have actually way to see from that perspective. That's why Prabhupada also said, for a woman who is thinking, I can enjoy this with this man in this way, she is actually in the mood of a man. And the man who is thinking, I can enjoy this woman in this way, he is also thinking like a man. Both are thinking like men. Men in the form, in the sense that they are thinking, I am the enjoyer. So, so that way, the mood of the person wise also, Prabhupada has cautioned us that the classification of man and woman is not of the soul, but it is of the mentality of the person.
Fundamentally, we all are Prakriti actually.
Yes.
One Purusa. And
Correct.
It's just matter of 1 mm, that skin. Beneath that, everything is pus and all those. That.
Yeah.
So this Gosai Parivar and all Radharaman temple, they are still following their Jat, like Gosai only. They are not allowing anybody else in their thing. So how to understand that?
That is, over a period of time, they have taken the title of Goswami, like Brahmanas say, I am born in the Brahmana family, therefore I am a Brahmana. Like that they are saying, I am born in Goswami family, therefore I am a Goswami. Actually, all the 6 Goswamis, they were sannyasis. So they did not have children. So they were one of their prominent disciples, they appointed them to take care of the deity worship of the temples. And gradually what happened is, those disciples, they were grahasthas, their children, they all started taking the title of Goswami. So that is how it has become. So just like the Varnashrama system, the Sanatana Dharma has become corrupted, like that system also has become corrupted. So actually Goswami means, Prabhupada says, Goswami means he is the master of the senses. One who has learned to control his senses. That as in the Upadeshamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami states, what is that? Jihva vegam, udaropasta vegam, manasa krodha vegam, yo vishaheta sadhiraha. One who is able to control the force of mind to become angry, the force of the genitals, the force of the tongue to talk and to eat palatable foodstuff. One who is able to withstand all these forces, he is actually a Goswami. So Goswami is not a hereditary title obtained on the basis of birth. Just like Brahmana is not a title based simply on birth. One has to be qualified also. So just like the Varnashrama system has got corrupted, this system of the Goswamis coming in the parampara has also got corrupted. Unfortunately, that's the situation. But openly we don't try to talk about these things, because unnecessarily, again, it'll create disturbance and unwanted this one. Sorry. So we don't talk about it. We respect them. After all, finally, they are Vaishnavas. They are rendering service to the deity also. So we respect that from that perspective. But when it comes to the title of Goswami, we have this understanding.
Those Vaishnava community, those who are following Prabhupada and doing all the devotional service, so we should be like in Daiva Varnashram, right? Not in bodily platform. Daiva Varnashram, doing karma like Nitya karma, Naimitya karma, as per by acharyas like Hari Bhakti Vilas and Prabhupada instructions. And this Varnashram, which is in material world, in material modes, actually, modes of material nature, that Varnashram is like all the karma kanda, all those what you call that, whatever is in Vedas and all. Am I correct to understand that way?
When we speak of a normal Varnashrama system, in that Varnashrama system, everybody has a certain duty to perform. Brahmana has a certain duty to perform. Kshatriya has a certain duty to perform. Vaishya has a certain duty to perform. And then a man in a Brahmana family, he has a certain duty to perform. Woman in a Brahmana family, she has a certain duty to perform. Woman in a Kshatriya family will have a different duty. A son has a certain duty. Father has a certain duty. So all these duties are delineated in the scriptures with respect to Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So anyone who follows this with either intention of getting some fruitive result of that, I'll acquire punya and I will go to Swarga, or he does it with an intention that I have a duty to perform, therefore I'll do my duty. So either way, that performance of that Varnashrama system is the normal Varnashrama system. When we speak of Daivi Varnashrama system, what Prabhupada is saying is, you can be classified as a Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya or Shudra, and whatever you do it for the pleasure of Krishna. Every activity you do in your role as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra is meant for the pleasure of Krishna as Ananya Bhakti. So that becomes Daivi Varnashrama. So that is a very, elevated form of Varnashrama, where everybody is engaged in Ananya Bhakti. Whereas in the regular Varnashrama system, everybody is not engaged in Ananya Bhakti. So they are encouraged to engage in fruitive activities, so that gradually they can elevate themselves and come to the stage of Vairagya, and then finally come to the state of Jnana, and then come to the stage of Bhakti. So gradually elevate them. That is the process of Varnashrama system over a period of several lifetimes. So when we say several lifetimes, one example is that Shastra state, if a person for 100 births in a Brahmana family performs perfectly all the duties of a Brahmana, then for 100 births, if he has continuously done it, then he will get elevated to Siddhaloka. So you can imagine, so for us to elevate ourselves to the heavenly planets, how many lifetimes it will take. So that's a very gradual, long process. Slowly elevate your guna, elevate, bring you to sattva guna, elevate your sattva guna, elevate. Finally go to the heavenly planets, and there Siddhaloka, Janaloka, Mahaloka, go to Brahmaloka, and then finally you have got an opportunity to liberate yourself. So it takes millions of lifetimes. Whereas in Daivi Varnashrama, whatever propensities you are born with, some prarabdha karma you got, because of which you have a Brahmana kind of attitude towards life. Another has got a Kshatriya kind of attitude. Another has got a Vaishya kind of attitude. Engage in devotional service with that propensity. So, and give all the results of your activities as a Vaishya or as a Kshatriya or as a Brahmana to Krishna. Then it becomes Daivi Varnashrama. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is Sharanarayana Dasa. I just want to understand. See, in text 30, Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak. It says,
yes.
But how to understand? Because one of the offenses, on the strength of Nama, we are not supposed to do any sins. So
Yes.
does it mean how do you understand between
Accidental fall down, like Ajamila. Ajamila was a Brahmana, he was rendering devotional service to Narayana, he was worshipping the Narayana Vigraha, but accidentally he fell down and he became a Durachari. So then he got, because he again at the end of his life, he again got reinstated in his devotional service. Similarly, Bharat Maharaj went up to the stage of Mahabhakti. Then he fell away from the path of Sadachara and he got attached to the deer. So he fell down for one lifetime as a deer and again he got liberated. So this is one kind of Sudurachari. Another kind is Durachara, which is by birth, like Mrigari. From birth he was a Durachari. Valmiki Rishi, by birth Durachari, because of the Papa Yoni in which he took birth. They also, when the moment they started rendering devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, all that wiped out and they were reinstated in their original position as pure devotees. So even Ajamila also, even Bharat Maharaj also, they might have temporarily fallen down, but the moment they very quickly they got, the very next verse Krishna says, Shipram Bhavate Dharmatma. Very quickly they came back to the platform of Sadachara and they continued. Similarly, Mrigari, whole life he was killing all the animals dead, but he met Narada Muni for a few minutes and he decided to follow Narada Muni's instructions and broke his bow, over, finished. All his Durachara got over. So, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma, fraction of a few minutes he became again Sadachara. So, that is how we have to understand. So, it is not referring to people who make the offense of knowingly committing sinful activities in the strength of the holy name. It is accidentally or unknowingly or because of the yoni in which you took birth, you were a Durachari. So all these kind of things are what is being referred to.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
Prabhu, does even Bilva Mangal Thakur come in this category? Can we take Bilva Mangal Thakur as an example? He was also committing sins, right?
Yeah, Bilva Mangal Thakur also in his previous life, he had done devotional service to a large extent. And that is how in the next lifetime he took birth as in an aristocratic family. And when he went to that prostitute, Prabhupada says that the spiritual master spoke through the prostitute. And that is how his eyes got opened. And he immediately left for Vrindavan Dham. So in one sense, you can also take him as an example of a person who immediately, in a very short span of time, without having to go to heavenly planets and then again come back and all those kind of things, he didn't have to go through all that. In the next lifetime itself, he continued the path of Ananya Bhakti and he became the great Bilva Mangal Thakur.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very
Yes,
nice class. One question is about how can you call Ananya Bhakti? Is it like 24 hours or is it just like, because I'm asking devotees also join but not full time, they are doing working outside, and so they are also called Ananya Bhaktas, or only those who are full time dedicated 24 hours doing service, they are Ananya Bhaktas? Is one question.
Mataji, even full-time dedicated devotees are not doing 24 hours devotional service. At least 6 to 8 hours we also sleep. And when we honor Krishna Prasadam also, where we honor Krishna Prasadam with the mood that this is Krishna's mercy upon me. Somebody said we don't.
But at least mind, body, and word you are doing now. At
we
least
only
mind,
attack
body,
Krishna
and word
Prasadam.
you are doing.
So the definition of Ananya Bhakti is the twofold, like I mentioned. One is exclusive devotional service to Krishna, not to Narayana, Vishnu, all these, Ramachandra, Narasimha, nobody. Krishna directed, our devotional service is directed to Krishna, number one. Number two is that devotional service we are doing for Krishna also, whether it is chanting, attending Mangalarti, hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gita. Why we do? Not because I am going to get a better birth, I am going to get liberated, none of those things. The motive is because it is pleasing to Prabhupada and to Krishna. We may not even know the pleasure of Krishna. We know that it is pleasing to Krishna. Prabhupada has said chant 16 malas, therefore we chant. Why? Because we know that by doing that, Prabhupada will be pleased. And yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada, because of which Krishna becomes pleased. So whether one is one is 24 hours engaged in devotional service or not is not the criteria. The motive of doing that devotional service is what is more important.
Because
And
you also said Ananya Bhakti means you also said give up jnana, karma, and all that. So
yes,
karma is also one of the things. So if we have to give up karma, that means we cannot be doing any karma. So we have to do only Krishna conscious activities mentioned in by 64 Angas, mentioned in Goswami's Nectar of Devotion. So if we
let me give a practical example, Mataji. There was one devotee called Jayananda Das Brahmachari in the US. I hope you have heard of him. 100% must have heard of him. Yes. What was his service to the temple? He was driving a taxi. Okay, he was driving a taxi, and whatever money was coming from driving the taxi, he used to give to the temple, and he used to help a lot with conducting the Rath Yatra and all that. And finally, when he passed away, what did Prabhupada say? Prabhupada said he went back to Godhead. So, what activity you do is not what classifies it as karma. What you do with the result of that activity is what classifies it as karma. If we use that result for our own sense gratification, then it becomes karma. If we use the result for the pleasure of Krishna, for spreading the mission of Prabhupada, then it is no more karma, it is bhakti.
Bhakti
it is
or
Ananya
Karmarpanam, Prabhu?
Sorry?
Bhakti or Karmarpanam?
See, Karmarpanam means, see, if I am doing my duty, being attached to performing the duty because I am part of the Varnashrama system, I am a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, I am a Vaishya, I have to do this karma. I will do this karma. And when some result comes, I give it to Krishna. That is Karmarpanam. When it comes to bhakti, I am doing that for the sake of pleasure of Krishna. So Krishna says in the
taking help of karma.
No. Let me complete. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita that Sharira Yatrapi Tena Prasiddhyer Akarmanaha. To maintain the body and soul together, we have to do some activity. Like Holavaita Sridhar, he had to maintain his body and soul together, so he used to do business. He was doing the business of selling small donas, but whatever it is, he was doing business and he was making money out of that. But still, you cannot say that he was not an Ananya Bhakta. So, for the sake of maintaining the body and soul together, we might have to do something, some activity we have to do, because that's the nature of this material world. You cannot maintain your body and soul if you don't do anything. So, you have to do something in this material world, given the circumstances in which you are in. You do something to maintain the body and soul together, and with whatever result comes, maintain the body and soul together, and whatever extra result you have, whether it is money, power, influence, whatever it is, you utilize it to spread the mission of Prabhupada and Krishna. Then you are not being stuck to the results. You are not being stuck to the reactions. That is not simply karma.
So is it Ananya Bhakti?
Karma means, actually, what is the definition of karma? Definition of karma means, in the Varnashrama system, as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, you perform the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, which are given in the Vedas, then it becomes karma. My going to office, working in a tobacco factory and working as a manager, it's not karma. That is not karma. So, in Kali Yuga, you cannot perform the kind of karma where karmarpana happens as it is described in the Vedic scriptures. Because the Varnashrama system doesn't exist. The duties of the Varnas are all lost. So, where is the question of following all those Varnas and Ashramas? So, we should not, whatever we are doing is only our livelihood. In the Vedic times, whatever duties of the Varna and Ashrama were there, they were intertwined with the livelihood, so that you earn your livelihood also and you earn punya karma also. In current world, in Kali Yuga, what happens is, all our livelihood activities are intertwined with only karma. Whatever we do in the material world today in Kali Yuga, you do for your livelihood, you will get only papa as a result. There is no question of punya. So there is a question of karma.
Stomach karma.
Huh?
Stomach karma.
So we are only doing vikarma. So so the result, because we are, whatever result is coming, we are living for the pleasure of Krishna and Prabhupada. Livelihood, something we have to do, we do. But what is the goal of our existence? We are not existing to run after money, make money. I want to become a big man in the material world. I want to go to Swargaloka. Those aspirations don't exist in our heart. So for the sake of livelihood, we have to do something, we do something. But our goal of our life is pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna. Every moment of our life, we are thinking how I can serve the pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna. When I go to my office also, I'm working. I try to see how so many people I'm coming in touch with. Yare dekho, tare kaho, Krishna upadesh. Let me somehow or the other make them chant Hare Krishna. Then, whatever activity you're doing, you will not be tainted by those results. So, as long as we are following the instructions of Prabhupada, we are performing Ananya Bhakti. Why? Because Prabhupada has clearly taught us what is the motive of doing that devotional service. The motive of that devotional service is not to get any kind of material benefit for ourselves. It is for the pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna. Therefore, it is Ananya Bhakti. And by going on performing that Ananya Bhakti, our situation will get elevated. You look at the example of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He was performing the role of a district magistrate, and he was doing all normal business as a district magistrate. He has to settle the disputes of some people, and whoever citizens come to him with a complaint, he has to take care of them. So he was performing normal karmic activities, but he was never removed from the position of Ananya Bhakti, because constantly his meditation was how to render devotional service to Krishna. So these examples are there in society in order to teach us that even if we have got an opportunity to be a full-time devotee, nothing like it. That is the best situation that you can have. But it doesn't mean that if I'm not a full-time devotee, then I'm finished. That is also not true. So if you are a full-time devotee, then you are insulated. Your spiritual life is insulated in many ways. You don't have to worry about material existence. You don't have to struggle for your material existence. Krishna will take care of that. Whereas if you are in the outside world, if you are not, if you don't have the opportunity to be a full-time devotee, then some amount of struggle is there in the material existence. But that also, if we properly depend on Krishna, Krishna will protect even in that also. So there, what happens is some amount of time and energy has to go in our livelihood. But still one is not bereft of the benefits of performing Ananya Bhakti. Even in that stage also, if we perform the devotional service as Prabhupada has taught us, then just like Dhyananda Prabhu went back to Godhead by driving taxi, we can also go back. So we don't have to worry about that. Ultimately, the result is we will go back to Godhead at the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, if we perform Ananya Bhakti according to the directions Prabhupada has given us. We don't deviate from Prabhupada's instructions. Then we are safe.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you very much. Prabhu, you talked about Kadachiti Bhakti from you speaking from Bhakti Sandarbha, Prabhu?
Prabhupada quotes Rupa Goswami. I think it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kadachiti Bhakti and what is that? Santata Bhakti. These two Bhaktis, Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly where from it is. I simply repeated what Prabhupada has quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Okay, Prabhu, I think that will be the last question, unless anyone else has anything to ask. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, Parashuram Prabhu.
One little thing that in Vedic system, we see that, it's written, it's told by acharyas that it should be, by birth, not by birth, by karma. But Parashuram did not teach Karna, like he gave curse to Karna that you are not Brahmana, you lied, and And then so many instances where Brahmana and Kshatriya.
So actually he lied, no. Karna lied, no. Karna lied.
Yeah, that's okay.
So he
That's
lied.
okay. But
He
there
got
are so many
a curse for
instances.
lying, not for his birth.
Yeah, but there are so many instances that Brahmana and Kshatriya only were supposed to do that thing and that prescribed duty, and other varnas by birth they were not allowed actually. So
there is two aspects to this. What we have to understand is that in in the olden times, in the Vedic times, the system of Garbhadana Samskara and the system of marrying within the Varna was strictly followed. So as long as Garbhadana Samskara was followed and the process of marrying within the family was followed, what would happen was the genes would get passed on from one generation to the next generation. So when the genes are passed on from one generation to another generation, normally 99% of the time, in a Brahmana's family, Brahmana only will be born. In a Kshatriya's family, Kshatriya only will be born. Very rarely it will happen that a person, he is born in a Brahmana family, but he has got a lower quality. Like Ashwatthama, he was born to a Dronacharya, but he is not considered a Brahmana, he is called a Brahma Bandhu. So, therefore, in the Vedic system, not only one has to take birth in that particular family, he has also to qualify himself. So, unqualified, if somebody tries to do the duties of another Varna, that is condemned. So, generally, by the common mass of people, they will simply go by, okay, yes, second birth in a Brahmana family means he must be a Brahmana. So higher Brahmana, he will look at his qualities and activities and he will tell, no, you're not a Brahmana, you're a Brahma Bandhu. So so by and large, because of that practice of Garbhadana Samskara and marrying within the Varna, that more or less the yoni would be maintained. So that was the system. And so therefore, you find some instances where birth is also given importance. That is how we have to understand.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Otherwise, even the Vedas themselves give the examples of Vishwamitra Muni, who was born in a Kshatriya family, but he became a Brahmana later on, within the same lifetime. The Jabali, born to a prostitute, so he was born in a Shudra family, but he was accepted as a Brahmana. So, like this also we see that instances are there in the Shastras. So, why these instances are highlighted in the Shastras? Because they were not common occurrences, they were uncommon occurrences. So, because such uncommon occurrences were there, they were recorded in history. That means 99% of the time, because of the two processes of Garbhadana Samskara and marrying within the Varna, the Brahmana would be born in Brahmana family only. That used to be the system.
Yes, but yeah.
That system used to work nicely. That is, that's
somewhere
what it means.
Somewhere I read in Prabhupada books that Parashuram and Vishwamitra, these are exceptional cases because Shuddha Sattva, they were in Shuddha Sattva mode, and that mode actually they are not in the material mode, so they are. I mean, that can be exemption.
That is true of Parashurama because he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Vishwamitra Muni is very clear. He was a king, Rajoguna, and then he did tapasya and he became a Brahmana. And even after that, he came in touch with Urvashi, and then he stopped his yoga practice. He again fell victim to her, and so all these things happened with Vishwamitra Muni.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhu, I read that Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying that Parashuram, only for a certain particular period of time, the Lord invested his potency in him. After that, he functions just as the Jiva soul.
Yeah, he is a Shakti Avesha incarnation. Yeah. That's what Prabhupada also says.
Yeah.
Shakti Avesha means he was invested with the power of cutting down the demoniac kings 21 times. That is how Nikshatram Akarod. He rid the earth of all the Kshatriya kings 21 times. So that was the power Krishna had invested him, the power to cut down the demoniac kings. That is how all alone he went and fought with the entire army of Kartavirya Arjuna. Kartavirya Arjuna sent something like 16 Akshohanis or something to fight with one Parashurama. And Parashurama all alone, he finished all of them. And then Kartavirya Arjuna himself, he had got 1,000 arms or something like that. He came in front of him. Even he finished off in a very short span of time. So interestingly, Bhagavatam says when Parasurama came and attacked Mahishmati, and he sent these Akshavnis, several Akshavnis of soldiers, then Parasurama attacked them with the speed of the mind, and then he started attacking them with the speed of the wind. So Prabhupada says that Parasurama started with the speed of the mind at an intense speed. After some time, he got tired, so he reduced the speed from the speed of mind to the speed of the wind. So you can imagine the kind of the power that he was invested with. So these are all transcendental things from which we can understand that he has been specifically invested with the power to fight the demoniac kings and defeat them.
Actually, they said Ravana did not enter mainland India because of Kartavirya Arjuna. He was afraid of him. It is said like that also.
Ravana, and he had set up camp near that river, I think Narmada or whatever flows through that Mahishmati area. And what happened was Kartavirya Arjuna was playing with his queens in that water of the river, and with his arms he stopped the flow of the river. So the river overflooded, and the overflooded water went into the camp of Ravana. And so Ravana became angry. Who is this doing this? And he went and picked up a fight with Kartavirya Arjuna. So the Bhagavatam says Kartavirya Arjuna caught him like a some small animal, and he took him in his left hand and took him to the inside the palace, and then he said, "Hey, jao, chhod diya tumko." So Ravana was Ravana was no match for Kartavirya Arjuna. He is so powerful. It's a beautiful description in the Bhagavatam.
Actually, Prabhu, it's just a last comment probably. Like what Parashuram Prabhu mentioned, we keep hearing about whether these varnashramas by birth or by qualities. But I think hardly anyone mentions that when we say birth, it relates to the Vedic conception of what birth should be like. People think it is just some kind of a chemical reaction, and then suddenly, just someone gets born, and after that, everyone starts
that is why the process of Garbhadhana Samskara is important.
Yeah.
Prabhupada says very clearly, even if one is born in a Brahmana family, if the parents have not done Garbhadhana Samskara, then he is a Shudra. So that is why marrying within the Varna, or it should be at least Anuloma marriage, even if it is intercaste marriage, and Garbhadhana Samskara. These two things, if they are followed, then automatically the yoni will be a good yoni. The yoni will be according to the father's yoni, whatever is there, as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, he will be born. For Shudras, of course, there is no Garbhadhana Samskara. So if the higher castes also don't follow Garbhadhana Samskara, then the result will only be Shudrikal children.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you so much. It's been a long session, but a very fruitful one.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for joining
us everyone.
Today.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with all of you. So, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna
Ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.